a man thing. Wow. Effect of thought on health and body. This body is a servant of the mind. It obeys the operations of the mind, whether they be deliberately chosen or automatically expressed. At the bidding of the unlawful thought, the body sinks rapidly into disease and decay, and at the command of glad and beautiful thoughts, it becomes clothed with youthfulness and beauty. Disease and health, like circumstances, are rooted in thought. Sickly thoughts will express themselves through a sick body. Thoughts of fear have been known to kill a man as rapidly as a bullet, and they can continually killing thousands of people just as surely, though less rapidly. The people who live in the fear of the disease are the people who get it. Anxiety quickly demoralizes the whole body and lets it open to the entrance of disease. Wild, impure thoughts, even if not physically indulged, will sooner shatter the nervous system. Strong, pure, and happy thoughts will come into the body, the vigor and the grace. The body is a delicate and plastic instrument which responds readily to the thoughts by which it is impressed, and the habits of thought which produce their own effect, good or bad, upon it. Men will continue to have impure and poisoned blood as so long as to propagate uncertain, unclean thoughts. Out of a clean heart comes a clean life and a clean body. Out of the defiled mind proceeds a defiled life and a corrupt body. Thought is the fount of action, manifestation, and make the fountain pure, and all will be pure. Change of diet will not help a man who will not change his thoughts. When a man makes his thoughts pure, he will no longer desire impure food. Clean thoughts make clean habits, and so-called saint who does not wash his body is not a saint. Who has strengthened and purified his thoughts and does not neither consider the malevolent microbe. If you would perfect your body, guard your mind. If you would renew your body, beautify your mind, thoughts of malice, envy, disappointment, and despondency rob the body of its health and grace. A sore face does not come by chance. It is made by sore thoughts. Wrinkles and marks are adorned by folly, passion, and pride. I know a woman of 96 who has a bright, innocent face of a girl. I know a man underage, middle, whose face is drawn into inharmonious contours. The one is a result of the sweet and harmonious disposition. The other is the outcome of the passion and discontent. As you cannot have a sweet and wholesome abode unless you admit the air and the sunshine freely into your mouth. Room so the strong body and the bright, happy, and serene countenance can only result from the free admittance into the mind of the thoughts of joy and goodwill, serenity. On the faces of the age, there are wrinkles made by sympathy, others by strong and pure thought, and others by carved by passion, who cannot distinguish them. With those who have lived righteously, age is calm, peaceful, and softly mellowed, while the setting sun. I have recently seen a philosopher on his deathbed. He was not old except in years. He died as sweetly, as peacefully as he had lived. There is no physician like cheerful thought for dissipating the ills of the body. There is no comforter to compare with goodwill of dispensing the shadows of the grief and sorrow. To live continually in thoughts of ill will, cynicism, and suspicion and envy is to be confined in a self-made prison hole. But to think of well of all, to be cheerful with all, and to patiently learn to find the good in all. Such unselfish thoughts are the very portals of heaven, and to dwell day by day in the thoughts of the peace towards every creature will bring abounding peace to their possessor. Thought and purpose. This is great. Until thought is linked with a purpose, there is no intelligent accomplishment. With the majority of the bark of the thought is allowed to drift upon the ocean of life, aimlessness is the why such drifting must be not continued for him who would steer clear of catastrophe and destruction. They who have no central purpose in their life fall an easy prey to petty worries, fears, troubles, and self-pitying, all of which are indications of weakness, which lead just as surely as deliberately planned sins, though by different routes, into failure and happiness, loss for weakness and persist in the power evolving universe. A man should conceive a legitimate purpose in his heart and set out to accomplishment. He should make this purpose the centralizing point of his thoughts. It may take the form of the spiritual ideal, or it may be the worldly object according to its nature at the time being. But whichever it is, he should steadily focus his thought forces upon the subject which he has set upon before him. He should make this purpose supreme duty and should devote himself to its attainment, not allowing his thoughts to wander away into ephemeral fancies, longing and imaginings. This is the royal road to self-control and true concentration of thought, even if he fails again and again to accomplish his purpose, as he necessarily must until weakness is overcome. The strength of character gained will be the measure of his true success, and this will form a new starting point for the future power and triumph. And those who are not prepared for the apprehension of the great purpose should fix the thoughts upon the faultless performance of their duty, no matter how insignificant the task may appear. Only by this can the thoughts be gathered and focused, and resolution of energy be developed with being done. There is nothing which may not be accomplished. The weakest soul working on his own weakness, believing this truth that strength can only be developed by effort and practice, will thus, believing at once, begin to exert itself, and adding effort to effort, patience to patience, and strength to strength, will never cease to develop and will at last grow divinely strong. As the physically weak man can make himself strong by careful and patient training, so the man of the weak thoughts can make himself strong by exercising himself to right thinking. To put away aimlessness and weakness and to begin to think with purpose is to enter the ranks of those strong ones who only recognize failure as one of the pathways to attainment, will make all conditions serve them, and who think strongly and attempt fearlessly and accomplish masterfully. Having conceived of this purpose, a man should mark out the straight pathway to its achievement, looking neither left nor right. Doubts and fears should be rigorously excluded. They are distinguishing elements which break up the straight line of effort, rendering it crooked, ineffectual, useless. Thoughts of doubt and fear never accomplish anything, and never can. They always lead to failure. Purpose, energy, power to do, and all strong thoughts cease when doubt and fear creep in. The will to do springs from the knowledge that we can do. Doubt and fear are the great enemies of knowledge, and he who encourages them does not slay them. Thoughts himself at every step. He who has conquered doubt and fear has conquered failure. His every thought is held with power, and all difficulties are bravely met and wisely overcome. His purposes are seasonally planted, and they bloom and bring forth fruit that does not fall prematurely to the ground. Thought held fearlessly to purpose becomes creative force. He who knows this is ready to become something higher and stronger than a mere bundle of wavering thoughts and fluctuating sensation. He who does this has become the conscious and intelligent wielder of his mental powers. The thought factor on achievement. All that a man achieves and all that man fails to achieve is a direct result of his own thoughts. It is justly ordered universe. Where loss is occupied would mean total destruction. Individual responsibility must be absolute. A man's weakness and strength, purity, impurity, and his own and not another man's they are brought about by himself, not by another. And they can only be altered by himself, not by another. His condition is also his own and not another's. His suffering and his happiness are evolved from within, and he thinks, so he is. As he continues to think, so he remains. A strong man cannot help weak unless the weak is willing to be helped. And even when the weak must help himself become strong, he must by his own effort develop the strength which he admires in another. None but himself can alter his condition. It has been cruel for men to think and say, many men are slaves because one is the oppressor. Let us hate the oppressor. Now, however, there is amongst them a tendency to reverse the judgment and say, one man is oppressor because many are slaves. Let us despise the slaves. In truth is that oppressors and slaves are co-operator in ignorance. And while seeming to afflict each other, they are really afflicting themselves. A perfect knowledge perceives the action as the law of in the weakness of the oppressed and the misapplied power of the oppressor. A perfect love, seeing the suffering which both states entail, condemns neither. A perfect compassion embraces both oppressor and the oppressed. He who has conquered weakness and has put away all selfish thoughts belongs neither to the oppressor nor oppressed. He is free. A man can only rise, conquer, and achieve by lifting up his thoughts. He can only remain weak, object, and miserably by refusing to lift up his thoughts. Before a man can achieve anything, even in worldly things, he must lift his thoughts above slavish animal indulgence. He may not, in order to succeed, give up all enmity and selfishness by all means, but a portion of it must at least be sacrificed. A man whose first thought is visited and indulgence could neither think clearly nor plan methodically. He could not find and develop his latent sources, would fail in any undertaking. Not having commenced manfully to control his thoughts, he is not in position to control affairs and to adopt serious responsibilities. He is not fit to act independently and stand alone, but he is limited only by the thoughts which he chooses. There can be no progress, no achievement without sacrifice, and a man's worldly success will be in the measure that he sacrifices his confused animal thoughts and fixes his mind to the development of his plans and strengthening of his resolution and self-reliance. And the higher he lifts his thoughts, the more manly, upright, and righteous he becomes, the greater will be his success, and the more blessed and enduring will be his achievements. The universe does not favor the greedy, the dishonest, the vicious, although on the mere surface it may sometimes appear to be so. It helps the honest and magnanimous and virtuous. All the great teachers of the ages have declared that in the various forms, and to prove and to know a man is but to persist in making himself more and more virtuous by lifting up his thoughts. Intellectual achievements are the result of the thought tendency in the search of knowledge, and for the beautiful and the true in life and nature, such achievements may be sometimes connected with vanity and ambition, but they are not the outcome of those characteristics. They are the natural outgrowth of long and arduous effort and of pure and unselfish thoughts. Spiritual achievements are the consummation of holy aspirations. He who lives constantly in the conception of the noble and lofty thoughts, who dwell upon all that is pure, selfless, will, as surely as the sun reaches its zenith and the moon is full, become wise, noble in character, and rise in a position of influence and blessedness. Achievement of whatever kind is the crown of effort, the diadem of thought. By the aid of the self-control, resolution, purity, righteousness, and well-directed thought, a man ascends. By the aid of animality, indolence, impurity, corruption, confusion of thought, a man descends. A man may rise to high success in the world and even to lofty altitudes in the spiritual realm, and again descend into weakness and wretchedness by allowing arrogant, selfish, and corrupt thoughts to take possession of him. Victories attained by right thought can only be maintained by watchfulness. Many give way when success is assured and rapidly fall back into failure. All achievements, whether in business, intellectual, or spiritual world, is the result of definitely directed thought, are governed by the same law and are the same method. The only difference lies in the object of attainment. He who would accomplish little must sacrifice little. He who achieves much must sacrifice much. He who would attain highly must sacrifice highly. Vision and ideals. Wow. The dreamers are the saviors of the world, as the visible world is sustained by the invisible, so man, through all their trials and sins and sordid vocations, are nourished by the beautiful vision of these solitary dreamers. Humanity cannot forget its dreamers. It cannot let their idols fade and die. It lives in them. It knows them as the realities which it shall one day see and know. Composer, sculptor, painter, poet, prophet, and sage, these are the makers of the afterworld, the architects of heaven. The world is beautiful because they have lived. Without them, laboring humanity would perish. He who cherishes the beautiful vision and a lofty idol in his heart will one day realize it. Columbus cherished the vision of another world and he discovered it. Cornelius fostered the vision of the multiplicity of the worlds in the wider universe and he revealed it. Buddha beheld the vision of the spiritual world of stillness, beauty, and perfect peace, and he entered into it. Cherish your vision. Cherish your idols, cherish the music that stirs in your heart, the beauty that forms in your mind, the loveliness that dreads your purest thoughts, for out of them will grow the delightful conditions, all heavenly environment of these. If you but remain true to them, the world will at last but be built. To desire is to obtain, to aspire is to achieve. Shall man's basest desires receive the fullest measure of gratification, and his purest aspiration is starved for lack of sustenance? Such is not the law, such is the condition of things can never obtain, ask, and receive. Dream lofty dreams, and as the dreams, so shall you become. Your vision is the promise of what you shall one day be. Your idol is the prophecy of what you shall at last unveil. The greatest achievement was at first, and for a time being, the oak sleeps in the acorn and bird waits in the egg, and the highest vision of the soul is the waking angel stirs dreams and the seedling of realities. Dreams are the seedling of realities. Your circumstances may be uncongenial, but they shall not long remain so if you perceive an ideal and strive to reach it. You cannot travel within and still stand without. Here is a youth, hard-pressed by poverty and labor, confined long hours in an unhealthy workshop and schooled and lacking in all sorts of refinement. But he dreams of better things. He thinks of intelligence, of refinement, of grace and beauty. He conceives of mentally built up an ideal condition of life. The vision of vital liberty and a larger scope takes possession of him. Unrest urges him in action, and he utilizes all his spare time and means, small thoughts they are, and to the development of his latent powers and resources. Very soon the altered has his mind become that the workshop can no longer hold him. It has become so out of harmony with his mentality that it falls out of his life as a garment is cast aside, and with the growth of the opportunity that with the scope of his expanding powers, he passes out of it forever. Years later, you see this youth as a full-grown man. We find him a master of certain forces of the mind which he wields the worldwide influence and almost unequal power. In his hand he holds a cause of gigantic responsibility. He speaks and lo, lives are changed. Men and women hang upon his words and remold their character and life. Sun-like he becomes the fixed and luminous center around which innumerable destinies revolve. He has realized the vision of his youth. He has become one with the ideal. And you, too youthful, will realize the vision, not the ideal wish of your heart. Be it base or beautiful or a mixture of both, for you will always gravitate towards that which you secretly most love. Into your hands will be placed the exact results of your own thoughts. You will perceive that which you earn, no more, no less, whatever your present environment may be. You will fall, remain, rise with your thoughts, your vision, your ideal. You will become as small as your controlling desire, as great as your dominant aspiration. In the beautiful words, you may be keeping accounts, and presently you shall walk out of the door that for so long has seemed to you the barrier of your ideals, and shall find yourself before an audience. The pen is still behind your ear, the skins on your fingers, and there shall pour on the torrent of your inspiration. You may be driving sheep, and you shall wander to the city. Your colleague of open mouth shall water into the intrepid guidance of the spirit in the studio of the master, and after that time he shall say, I have nothing more to teach you, and now you have become the master who did so recently dream of great things while driving sheep. You shall lay down the saw and the plane to take upon yourself the regeneration of the world. The thoughtless, the ignorant and the indolent, seeing only the apparent effects of the things and not the things themselves, talk of luck, of fortune and chance. Seeing a man grow rich, they say how lucky he is. Observing another become intellectual, they exclaim how highly favored he is. And noting the saintly character of a wide influence of another, they remark how chance aids him at every turn. They do not see the trials and the failures and the struggles which these men have encountered in order to gain their experience. Have no knowledge of the sacrifices they have made, of the undaunted efforts they have put forth, of the faith they have exercised, and they have might overcome the apparently insurmountable and realize the vision of their heart. They do not know the darkness and the heartaches. They only see the light and the joy and call it luck. Do not see the long and the arduous journey, but only behold the pleasant goal and call it good fortune. Do not understand the process, but only perceive the results and call it chance. In all human affairs, there are efforts and there are the results, and the strength and the efforts is the measure of the result, chance is not. Gifts, powers, material, intellectual, and spiritual possessions are the fruits of effort. They are the thoughts completed, objects accomplished, visions realized. The vision that you glorify in your mind, the ideal that you enthrone in your heart, this you will build your life by. This you will become. Serenity prayer. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Calmness of mind is one of the beautiful jewels of wisdom. It is a result of long and patient effort in self-control. Its presence is an indication of ripened experience and of a more than ordinary knowledge of laws of operation and thought. A man becomes calm in the measure that he understands himself as the thought-evolving being. For such knowledge necessitates the understanding of others is the result of thought, and as he develops this right understanding, sees more and more clearly the internal relation of the things, of action and cause and effect. He ceases to fuss and fume and worry and grieve and remain poised and steadfast serene. The calm man, having learned how to govern himself, knows how to adapt himself to others, and they in turn reverence his spiritual strength, feel that they can learn of him and rely upon him. The more tranquil a man becomes, the greater is his success. His influence, his power of for good. Even the ordinary trader will find his business prosperity increase as he develops a greater self-control and equanimity, for people will always prefer to deal with a man whose demeanor is strongly equable. The strong, calm man is always loved and revered. He is like the shade-giving tree to a thirsty land or sheltering a rock in the storm. He does not love a tranquil heart. Who does not love a tranquil heart? A sweet-tempered, balanced life. It does not matter whether it rains or shines or what changes come to those possessing these blessings, or they are always sweet, serene, and calm. And that exquisite poise of character, which we call serenity, is the last lesson of culture. It is the flowering of life and the fruitage of the soul. It is the precious as wisdom, more to be desired than gold, yes, than even fine gold. How insignificant mere money-seeking looks in comparison with a serene life, a life that dwells in the ocean of truth, beneath the waves, beneath the reach of the tempests and the eternal calm. How many people who sow their lives, who ruin all that is sweet and beautiful by explosive tempers, who destroy their poise of character and make bad blood. It is a question whether the great majority of people do not ruin their lives and mar their happiness by lack of self-control. How few people we meet in life who are well balanced, who have the exquisite poise which is characteristic of the fashion character. Yes, humanity surges its controlled passion, is stimulates with ungoverned grief, is blown about by anxiety and doubt. Only the wise man, only he whose thoughts are controlled and purified, makes the winds and the storms of the soul obey him. Tempest-tossed souls, wherever ye may be, under whatever conditions ye may live, know this: in the ocean of the life, the isles of blessedness are smiling, and the sunny shore of the ideal awaits your coming. Keep your hand firmly upon the hem of the thought. In the bark of the soul reclines the commanding master. He does not sleep, wake him. He controls. Self-control is strength, right thought is mastery, calmness is power. Say unto your heart, peace, be still.